Hi, and thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Diane Alfaro, Events Co-Chair of the Democratic Central Committee, and I'll be moderating tonight's town hall with District 3 Supervisorial candidate Thomas Ramos. This is the third of a series of town halls where we will hear from the Democratic candidates for supervisor for the 3rd and 4th districts. We'll be starting with an introduction from the candidate, followed by questions from the DCC, then the public, and concluding with closing remarks from the candidate. With that, Mr. Ramos, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. First, I want to let everyone know that I'm not a professional politician, so I'm kind of an outsider. I've watched the events unfold for the last probably 4.5 years, and it's at a time where I turned my small business over to my adult son. And I was inspired by a gentleman named Charlie Levine, and he said, "You have to give back." He was a great Santa Cruzan, and essentially I want to bring some common sense back to complicated issues. So I feel I'm a liberal. I'm definitely liberal when it comes to people policies, but I'm a bit more conservative when it comes to financial, as far as how we spend the money and making sure that we spend it appropriately. I came to Santa Cruz to go to UCSC, went there from 1974 to 1978. I've been in the county ever since. I have 2 children, both live in the county, both work in Santa Cruz County. I have 3 grandchildren, all in Santa Cruz County. My son bought a house on the west side. I live in Bonnie Doon. I was one of the very few really lucky people that survived the CZU fire. And my heart goes out to the 900 plus homes that burned to the ground. That's another thing that you'll see. My website will launch on the 22nd or 23rd. I just think the campaign seasons are too long, and I'm self-funding at this point. So the one thing I'll ask everybody at the end tonight is, I want your vote, not your money. It won't be a splashy campaign, but I hope to attend every meeting, every forum, and answer any question or every email that's sent to me, or every phone call that's called to me. That's about it. Let's see, CZU fire, UCSC. Anyway, it's all from me. I don't have a committee that tells me how to say the right things to the right people, so you only get the truth. And if you believe in term limits, I can guarantee you I'm one and done. So I'm hoping that other citizen candidates come forth and are willing to serve the community, not as a political stepping stone, but actually as a county supervisor for the needs of our district, District 3. Thank you.
All right, moving on to the questions. Santa Cruz County is unique in many ways, such as its topography, people, biodiversity, and mix of cultures. One of the most unique characteristics about Santa Cruz County is that nearly half of the residents of this county live in unincorporated areas. Although you will be representing the 3rd district, your decisions will have a major impact on the residents of other districts. Do you know the important issues also facing districts 1, 2, 4, and 5? If you can mention the top issues, 1 or 2 for each district, that would be great.
Okay, again, okay. Well, I think we share a lot of common issues, and I'm sure that there are specific ones that are more important. District 1, you said. Let me just say what I know that we have in common, and I'll be happy to learn more about everything. I think we have a very serious issue of employment for clean industries, employment to stay in Santa Cruz County, and the ability to make a living and be able to afford to live here. So all of us are challenged with housing that regular people can buy, that regular people can live in. Essentially, if you hadn't come to Santa Cruz County and bought many, many years ago, it's incredibly difficult unless you inherit money or you really have a phenomenal job. The amount of people that commute over the hill in order to make enough money to live here, and the amount of the new nomad, basically work at home people that have driven up the prices throughout the entire county, makes it even less affordable for regular people to be able to live here. Homelessness, or the new terminology I've been told is the unhoused neighbors, is a huge issue. We have more homeless per capita in Santa Cruz than they do anywhere in California. Some people say we have more homeless per capita than anywhere in the United States. And I read recently that someone said that essentially we have more per capita homeless than anywhere else with the exception of India. I'm not proud of that. And I think we really need to solve the issues that are causing the homelessness that we have. It's beyond just the houses. South County has a major issue with a hospital. The hospital's in bankruptcy, and there's a lot of efforts going forward to buy them out of bankruptcy, and that's a great first step. I think the issue of medical care and access to medical care exceeds just the South County. We need to work on that for now, but we have several major health organizations, Sutter, now on strike. We have Palo Alto Medical, we have Kaiser that have been tipping their toes in and helping with small things, but it's time for policies to encourage them to actually be a full-on hospital and a full medical facility. Dominican, now Dignity Health, has done a great job, but whenever there's a monopoly, the amount of choices for all people, and especially, well, for all people, are reduced. The working conditions are controlled. Their last strike, it was a hard-handed settlement, as was the county worker settlement. It appalls me, amazes me, and makes me want to run and try to do something or bring some more grounding to it. We settled the strike at the last minute during an election year with the county workers, telling them how little money we have and how we couldn't afford what they asked for. And then within 2 weeks, we found $26 million to buy more houses for the unhoused. Those are both serious issues, but we've cut back to the county workers. We've cut firehouses that protect us all. We've cut back on the police, different topic, a good topic in itself. And so now we have understaffed people trying to take care of issues, and we're being served worse, it's more difficult. It takes longer, it's more expensive, and candidly, it's not what we deserve. I think we need to get back to the fundamentals of the Santa Cruz County Charter, and we really need to take care of our infrastructure, our schools, and our people. So I'm not going to go district by district because I'm an outsider. I don't have the crew to, well, I haven't covered them. If I haven't covered them, I apologize. But those are some of the important issues that are causing me to run. And I am admitted, I do focus on District 3 more than the rest.
Okay. So this is very similar, but what are the top 3 issues facing this office?
Okay, so I don't get off step here. Let me do quickly my notes if you don't mind. Let's see. Okay, I think number 1 issue is housing. Not affordable housing, but actually regular people's housing. And I have a fairly succinct, well thought out plan with minor changes to the current the county plan that we can build nice homes. I'm thinking somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 to 650 of them in 3 different locations, and we can assure that they're available for all people. And by that, I mean, the things that cause housing is not just the materials, and it's not just the labor. The speculation and the profitability because of what the market will bear, and that's a lot of outside investors. That's also vacation home, the wealthy vacation home crowd, drive up the price of housing so high that regular people can't afford it. So I believe that I can arrange and have houses built so that we have good neighborhoods, and good neighborhoods make good neighbors, and that we can actually house teachers that work here, firefighters that come here to work, all the people, the shopkeepers, the people that work in the shops, the baristas, people that spend their life serving Santa Cruz County and can't afford to live here. Rents are so high because housing costs are so high, and because it's so sparse. We're not going to take off on a multi-track business, but we need to focus on people and not worry so much about developers. We need to focus on the affordability of houses, and we can follow a Habitat for Humanity type process where people actually come and work on the house when it's being built. We can subsidize the interest rates with a community mortgage rate versus privateering, and so that it can get to the point where the interest on the mortgage cost can be offset, so that it actually can be 0%. And every month that people live there is equity. When they leave, they can't sell it at fair market rate. They have to sell it to somebody else. This can be done simply with a covenant on it. It's what Habitat for Humanity does. It's a great plan. And it would enable people to gain equity over a 5 or 10 year period and move wherever they want it. And again, only get back the equity that they've earned, and less than 5% or the cost of inflation, whichever is lower per year. It would require them to commit to a period of time, minimum 5 years, probably 10 years, or they could live there forever. We would, from the get-go, be able to do underground utilities. They would have all availabilities. It would be set up in a format where there'd be some 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath houses, mostly 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath houses. We would have separate bicycle lanes so that they're not intermixing with the cars. We would have walking paths and at least a moderate park for every 100 homes. Anyway, it's a very detailed plan. It's not pie in the sky. I studied developmental economics at UCSC, kind of the oddball out there. So housing, I think, is a critical issue. Homelessness is right up there. Our county, our city, the city of Santa Cruz specifically, and the county of Santa Cruz has a very large challenge on their hands. The policies that we've been following don't work, and yet we're doubling down on them. We're doubling the size or tripling the size that we're going to be able to put into the IV free shooting zone. We're not trying to really help the addiction. We're just trying to keep safe and disease not to spread, but doing 12 needles for one needle, 12 new fresh needles for one needle has increased the IV use. I can't take my grandkids to any park in Santa Cruz that has sand in it because there are used needles there. You walk through a lot of our parks, you walk through Pogo Nep. It's more and more difficult for the entire community to enjoy the beautiful scenery that we have. Homelessness needs to be addressed, and they need to address healthcare issues. A lot were put on the street when they did away with healthcare oversight. And oh, I love the cat still. Sorry about that. You know, we have the IV drug use as a problem, and a big problem is families had during COVID. COVID's been a long struggle. And people that were living month to month on 2 or 3 part-time jobs lost them. They ceased to exist for over a year. Some would say over 2 years. And first you lost your rental and you lived in your car, and then you had to sell your car. And we have families on the street. They need to be helped, and in a sincere way. I mean, I'm a big believer in second chances. So I want to see people that have truly lost everything from the existence of from what's happened in our society, the loss of jobs, and be able to train them for what we need. Candidly, we need more mental health care workers or assistants. We need more hospital workers, nurses, dental technicians. There are a lot of, there's a large chart that's easy to track what we need now and what we expect to need in the near future. And we need to train the families that we give a second chance to in a viable career, and then not throw them on the street. We need to make sure we get them a job. We need to follow them for a year or 2 years afterwards to make sure that they can keep that job and support them and get people back on their feet with dignity. So that's the big issue. Let me see. Well, one of my big issues, and I'm going to go to it because it's more than just my district, but it's a lot of District 3. I think the way that we've treated the CZU fire victims is close to criminal, or at least it's horrible. The amount of red tape and the slowness of the red tape that people have tried to rebuild is horrendous, and we're holding them to new standards that price them out of the market. Their insurance companies aren't paying for a $250,000 septic system, and if the septic systems work and don't pollute, and they're going to build a house the size they had before, is there any compassion in our hearts to grandfather these people in and let them rebuild? So few houses have started, and those are only of the uber wealthy. I know a lot of families that are looking at selling their burnt house, their burnt property, and moving out of state because they just can't afford to be here anymore. And I think it's a major insult to the injury that they had of losing everything. And as a county supervisor, or hopefully with the assistance and the negotiation with other county supervisors, maybe we can do something for the people that have lived here 20, 30, 40 years and actually let them rebuild and live here and continue to be productive citizens. I think we owe it to them, and I think it's a travesty. And I know you only asked for 3, but I want to do 4. Sorry. I've got more. I won't go. I'm the only one so far, so I won't go really long. I looked at the Dutch model that they're using for separate and safe bicycles. Bicycles transportation, including e-bike, is coming on, it has grown over the years. Some of it's used for transporting to work, more of it's used for recreation and pleasure. I don't care what the reason is. I think when you combine trucks and cars and motorcycles and motor scooters with bicycles, you're asking for serious injury and death. And until we do something serious by putting lanes that are separate, not parallel, separate and safe, we're just pushing the can down the road. It's a huge project. It can't happen in 4 years. I'm aware of that. But the journey of 10,000 miles starts with the first step. You have to go in the direction to solve something, and you have to start someday. I'm not gonna, I'm really against, I've been filling out some questionnaires for a lot of forums, so it's really helped me focus on what's really important to me. And candidly, we keep wanting to, we tell people that we're going to raise money, that we need to raise for instance, the tax for hotels and for rental houses. And the reason is good, because rental houses didn't pay anything for the impact of the extra traffic and things. I agree with that, as long as we have defined spending that's tied to the tax increases. To put it in the general fund, unfortunately, enables people that are council members to get together, either open or behind closed doors, and make deals for what I call the 24-hour news cycles. They do things with our money that are popular so that later somebody will owe them a favor for the next step. When they're out and when they're no longer on the city, council or county supervisor, on the next step to the state or wherever they're going to go. And I think we just need people that are serving the voters, serving the district, serving the people, and they don't have political aspirations to go beyond. Every single candidate that has a long-term experience, that has worked district to district, has gone from position to position, they carry with it some political baggage, but every one of them had to get elected first one time. And so here I am, I'm trying to get elected first one time and guarantee you in one term. And I just hope that we can cultivate citizen candidates that truly want to help. I've run a small business for 42 years. I gave it to my son January of 2018, and somehow I'm back because a lot of the workers left during COVID, so I'm helping him again. So I've got a lot of energy. I'm always open to emails and telephone calls. I'll always answer the same way, and I'll say it to you now, and that is, hello, how can I help?
All right, we have a couple more questions before we start the public comment. So, okay, my next couple questions are related to housing, and I will be asking them in 2 parts. I'll be asking you the first question, hear your response, and then follow up with another question. For the first question, in January of this year, AMBAG voted on the allocation methodology for the 6th cycle of the housing element. The methodology chosen allocated units based on affirmatively furthering fair housing, which is a factor to determine who lacks access to opportunity and address inequities amongst protected class groups. The County of Santa Cruz, not including its cities, received an allocation of 4,634 units. Do you believe this is a fair and achievable allocation?
Well, I think it's going to be difficult. I know the allocation is not sufficient to take care of the families that are in need or the people that are in need, but it's a great start. So I would say, yes, it's a great start. Like most things political, I mean, it's a great decision, and the actual implementation is going to be far more difficult because it's a requirement that goes beyond just the county supervisors. We can have policies and we can enact ordinances that can help. But in all honesty, you know, it's going to take the units, the developers that actually that currently are really in charge of building the units and adding a certain amount that are quote affordable living. Is
All
that good
right.
enough?
Oh, yeah. And now here's my follow-up question.
Good.
As of June 2021, the Housing Authority has 12,678 applicant households on the Housing Choice Voucher wait list. The wait list is currently closed. Do you stand by your previous response? And is there a creative way to find homes for the many households on this wait list?
Yes, there is. There really is. I mean, I think it's going to be a 2, if everyone agrees, and we can get some negotiation, a 2-year to probably a 6 to 10-year process. But I believe that we can not only add houses that are affordable for regular people, for most people, but like you said, with the 4,600 units, that's hardly enough for a 12,000 wait list. And quite frankly, I'm embarrassed that we have it closed. Closing the wait list doesn't change the problem. It continues to increase. And a lot of that's from the free market. I like to believe in the free market, but I think there's some things that are essential. I think education is essential. I think medical assistance is essential. And I think housing is essential and critical. I think we're a stronger community when more people actually own it. We're a stronger community when you know your neighbors. We're a stronger community when you support your neighbors. So yes, it's a you know, the 4,634 is clearly a small amount of what we need. There are areas that can have beautiful homes that regular people can afford in at least 3 parts of the county that I've researched so far, and I'd be open to more. Yeah, we need more. We need more, and we need to open up the wait list. And it's appalling that the wait list is even 100, let alone 12,000. It's something that needs to be addressed, and maybe we need to get back to basics so we address the serious issues of this county.
All right, thank you. Question 4, do you support the Greenway initiative? Why or why not? Please respond from both a district specific and a countywide perspective.
Yes, with condition. In other words, the Greenway is a wonderful, it's an incredible opportunity, and we cannot let it get away. The part that I have reservation for is if they're serious about putting in a railroad system, any kind of rail, light rail. Every rail, you know, rail works excellent in Europe. They've had it all the time. It works in other areas. But in the United States, taxpayers have to subsidize railways always. It's just inevitable. We've so far spent, I'd like to say, wasted $15 million doing 2 different studies for the Greenway initiative. And all of them have determined that it would be $1.3 billion and take at least 20 years. But if the railroad was done today, it would cost about $15 a ticket each way. What problem does this solve? So I love the Greenway. I think it's an imperative access way, and it's something that the county needs to see as a great opportunity. I would like to see it used for dual directions, one in each direction, bicycle lanes that are not encumbered by any sharing event. I would like to also see e-bike lanes, very green, very usable to transport people back and forth. I'd like to see running lanes. People love running. It's one of the best forms of exercise and life longevity. It's just something that my wife discovered when she's 50, and she needs to have those endorphins 3 days a week. So I see the value and the importance of it. But on the ocean side of the entire route, I would love to see walking paths for people and their dogs on relatively short leashes so that basically it has a lot of on and off access so that everyone can use it for the entire length or whatever part thereof. So I don't want the opportunity to get away. I have to struggle with my ethics when it comes to talking about rail banking in order to maintain that, because I think rails were great in the 19th and 20th centuries, and America just didn't keep up. And I don't think we can suddenly catch up. I don't think we have the funds to do it properly. We're not going to have a high-speed train or high-speed rail, and we don't need any more tourist events. We have Roaring Camp. We don't really need another tourist train system, that especially one that taxpayers pay for. Thank you.
Okay, we will now move on to questions from those in attendance. So if you have a question, please raise your hand or put them in the chat. And we'll start with one that we received from Mr. Rusamano. Thomas, just a quick question about process. Have you qualified for the ballot? You are not currently listed on the registrar's website.
I have qualified. I've got all the documents that have qualified me. Thank you for telling me that. I'll be down there on Monday. Find out why. Yes, I've qualified for the ballot, I guess is my answer. Now, my website will go up. I actually have had help building the website. I'm pretty good at it myself. But I was approved by the Secretary of State for a nonprofit political donation. So the bank account will be open next week, and then the website will go live. But I'll check on that. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate you for bringing that up. I haven't looked. I'm an outsider, honestly. I'm not pretending it's true.
Okay. Any other questions from the public? All right, Miss Williams, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Hi, I am a representative for District 2 that also covers, I believe it's District 3. So it's part of Watsonville and Aptos. I'm a little confused about your answer regarding Greenway, because a big piece of Greenway is removing tracks and making it solely a walk, run, bike path. Is that what you're in support of?
Yes. The part that I mentioned is one of the process in order to oh, what? I'm sorry. Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. Part of the requirement, as I understand it, is that we have to do rail banking so that if it's affordable in the future, it would be available for rail. And that's the part that I'm opposed to. That's the only part that I'm opposed to. The rest I see as an excellent opportunity. I would just like to see it expand a little bit more as far as using the space for bicycles, e-bikes, runners, as well as walkers. So yes.
Okay. All right. Well, so my understanding is that by removing it, you remove any future opportunity to do that. And unfortunately, you leave a significant part of our county out of an opportunity for transportation from Watsonville, Mid-County, all the way to North County. So I just wanted to clarify that, but thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you.
Okay. First, I want to acknowledge Ms. Hockman, who seemed to have a question, but then brought her hand down. So I just wanted to make sure that you did not have a question.
My hand is still down.
Okay, just making sure. Just making sure. All right. Mr. Sonnenfeld.
Hi, good evening. I was a little confused about your answer to a question regarding rental housing, and I just wanted to see if you could clarify what your position on rental housing in the county is.
Okay. In the county itself, I think we're moving towards, or I hope we're moving towards some kind of rental limitations. The fair market on this will drive out anyone that's a regular person out of even the rental market, as they have a lot of the purchasing market. So, what else are you confused about? I'm sorry. I thought that was covered.
Yeah, I'm still, are you suggesting that we should have a moratorium on rental housing or like, or are you talking about short term like Airbnb housing or just housing for tenants?
Housing for tenants is the only thing that I'm really interested in, and I'm not really Airbnb rental housing are as vacation housing are high profit, and they don't help the community at all. I'm not really. I don't think that the county supervisor can change the laws of the California or the United States. So I'm not proposing that we do that. But rental housing is essential, and I'm hoping to actually push towards affordable house owning by a lot of people that are currently paying rents. The rents here are astronomical. It's embarrassing that people pay the rents they pay and they're not able to own the house that they're living in. So, I don't want to do anything to restrict rental housing, period. And I'm personally not in favor of Airbnb or even vacational rentals. But as a county supervisor, it goes beyond our charter to be able to tell people they can't rent their houses. We can do certain issues with zoning, but it's more making it hard than it is actually an affirmative direction. We can't direct them to not rent their houses. Vacation rentals. The train left the track on that one, or the horse left the barn. We as county supervisors don't override state or federal laws. So we have to do what we can to encourage, do what we can to control, and then the voters need to chime in on that. They need to make the decision for how they're going to control rental housing.
Okay, thank you.
Is that more clear?
I'm still not entirely understanding, because to me, there's a difference between short-term Airbnb and just regular housing for folks who can't afford a mortgage, who just pay rent. And
what is your question? I'm really trying to answer.
Yeah, I'm just asking. When you are referring to rental housing, are you referring to all types of housing, including housing for tenants who live in a home for years, or are you just talking about short-term rental housing for vacation rentals?
Well, I'm in favor of rental housing for residents that live here. That's mainly my main focus. Short-term rental housing is great for removing dollars from the county, and it's good for people that are investors and for groups that buy homes. It's not good for the county of Santa Cruz, in my opinion. So when I talk about rentals, I guess my mind focuses. My parents never owned a house. Every house I lived in with my family in Morgan Hill, California, were rented, because they believe that if you can't buy it outright, don't go into debt. So I never knew that house ownership was even possible until I left the house and realized that, wow, most of my friends' parents owned houses. It was a concept that I wasn't raised with. So when I think of rental housing, yes, I do defer to long-term rentals. And I would personally love to see a way to encourage, to direct, to do what we can do, to have some of the short-term rentals turn into long-term rentals for people that live here. No matter what district they're in, I'm really interested in the residents of Santa Cruz County, not the investors. And Airbnb is a difficult one for me. It's, again, a great short-term way to do money, but it has a great impact on the communities with increased traffic, with whatever, people that are on vacation, having huge parties and enjoying themselves. I don't want to inhibit people enjoying themselves, but neighborhoods should be that. They should be neighborhoods for people that live there. I hope that's more clear.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have one more question. Ryan, go ahead.
Hi, thanks for being here, Thomas. There's like I'm on the fence about 3 different questions that I wanted to ask, and I'm still choosing which one I want to pose to you. But there's,
as long as they let me.
There,
your questions are
thank you.
very succinct and very sharp, so I'm going to just raise back and pay attention.
The other thing we
So-
can do is you can put, Thomas, you can put your email on,
Yeah.
on the chat here, and then Ryan can ask his other 2 questions.
Happy to do that.
So,
That's right.
something that you just stated just a moment ago about, you know, that your interest really lies with, you know, all the residents of Santa Cruz County, not less necessarily like in one district or another or outside of the county. And so I'm wondering, your role as supervisor then, how you would see building systems of equity, tearing down systems of institutional racism, particularly when it comes to things like transportation for folks that are living in the southern part of the county, where poverty rates are so much higher, income levels are statistically lower, and then creating some way of linking the north end and the south end of the county without a train. What is your plan then to address that system and those inequities that exist in this county?
Good question. I guess I don't really have a succinct plan for that right now, in all honesty. So I'll put that out there. If you have a great idea, or anyone who does, I'm very interested in listening and learning. The corridor that we have, I watched them take 20 years to expand from 2 lanes to 3 lanes for a couple miles. That should have been 3 or, I know people hate cars, but it should have been 3 lanes at least, both directions, all the way to Monterey County. As we change, and a lot of people have changed, more in California, a lot in Santa Cruz, to electric vehicles, or at the very least, very low emission or hybrid vehicles, it's a cleaner transportation. That's what we have now. The buses that we have service, and that has been cut. We're doing a lot of other things with the money, but apparently there's not enough money to run low emission vehicles to the South County, to the North County. I live in Bonnie Doon. We have 2 buses a day, one at 7 in the morning and one at 6 at night. That doesn't exactly help many people. You have to either get up and go to work earlier than you need to, and you may miss the bus and have to find a different way home. So it's more essential in South County because of the numbers that you quoted. But I would like to see us encourage work that is clean work, and I'll bring up Joby as an example, or Zero Motorcycles. Unfortunately, those are both in the North County, but we have an essential need for a living wage, and living wage is a lot more in Santa Cruz than it is in Mississippi. So when somebody says living wage, I think we need to adjust that to our county and to our costs. It needs to be significantly higher than the $15 an hour that California is slowly moving towards. Will everything cost more? Well, I got news for you. It does cost more, and we're not paying a living wage for our area. So yes, as a county supervisor, we need to aggressively go after industries that can open. We have space down there. We have empty buildings. We have empty facilities that can produce things. We can expand. I have a friend that works in the microgreen industry. We can expand greenhouses there. Since cannabis has been legal, it's amazing how many jobs have occurred there. Not exactly the green that I meant, but green for environmentally green jobs are available. This county has over 200 startups that are mostly tech and all green. But they don't occur and they don't offer employment in the South County. And clearly that's a bigger need than even in District 3, where I'm hoping to get elected. We're a lot rural. The majority of District 3 is rural, from the San Mateo coast all the way down to the west side, including UCSC. UCSC has huge plans to expand. That's going to take a lot more resources. So, I mean, the urgent thing would be to have realistic and valuable homes in the area so that commuting isn't necessary. I'm somewhat embarrassed that we basically have to truck, or people have to commute in to work in Santa Cruz, but they can't afford to live there. So they have to leave and go to the South County or to the North County or to rural areas. Now, in my case, I love rural areas. I was born in a rural area. I'll always live in a rural area because it's just part of me. But, you know, if you have to live there because the rents are lower, it makes transportation more difficult. There's no short answer. As a county supervisor, I'm not going to solve the transportation issues from the South or North County in 2 or 3 years. Road construction, if it were rail construction, takes so long that we're talking 20 years plus. Now, I've never seen an estimate on a commercial project come in under budget or under time. So when the studies estimate 1.3 billion in 20 years, I guess it's more like 3 or 4 billion in 25 years. We need something more essential and quicker. So perhaps the bus system, as soon as we can go to complete EV, would be worthwhile, and expanding the lanes where we can to 3 lanes so that we have a bus and high occupancy lane would be helpful. But we need to do short-term things, but we need to start long-term solutions. And for me, local medical care for the South County and jobs with dignity that pay an adequate amount so that you can actually live in Santa Cruz County and be proud of it is more important for the long run. So you need to take care of the quick transportation as we have it and improve it where we can. The medium, which is jobs and housing in that people can afford in the areas where they live now, and jobs that are worth having, and jobs with dignity. So at least those 3 for that one. Feel free to send me the rest. I promise I will answer them. If you don't, if I talk too much or too long and I don't answer your specific question, I will try. So how may I help?
Okay, so you now have 2 minutes for closing remarks.
I won't take that long. Okay. I'm Thomas. My email is really tricky. It's thomas@thomasramos.com. My cell number, which is, I'm trying to get them to be able to implant iPhone 14 into my brain so I don't lose it ever, but I answer it all the time. It's 831-295-3923. I plan to serve the community of District 3, the voters of District 3, and overall all of the county and what's best for us. I'm not using this as a stepping stone to my next political office, so this is it. I spent 42 years of my life negotiating. I can speak well when I'm not real nervous, like you got to see in the beginning of that. But in all honesty, I listen and I act. Listening is cute, listening is great, listening is essential, but if you don't act on it, it's useless. So essentially, I hope to earn your vote, not your money. I don't want your money. I'm going to do what I can to self-fund, and it won't be a splashy campaign, but I'll be available for everybody, and I'm happy to learn. Ryan, if you've got a better job for getting us transportation from the South or North County immediately, let me know. Anyone, please let me know. I think it's been too, I don't want to serve as the overall supervisor. I want to serve as your representative. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Ramos, for giving us your time tonight. And we will hold our next town hall at 7 p.m. tonight with District 3 candidate Amy Chen Mills. So hi, thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Diane Alfaro, events co-chair of the Democratic Central Committee, and I will be moderating tonight's town hall with District 3 supervisorial candidate Amy Chen Mills. This is the 4th of a series of town halls where we will be hearing from the Democratic candidates for the supervisor for 3rd and 4th districts. We will be starting with an introduction from the candidate, followed by questions from the DCC, then the public, and concluding with closing remarks from the candidate. With that, Ms. Chen Mills, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. This seems like it's going to be a fun one because it's just a little more casual. And I like that. I feel like, people can get to know each other better. So just to start as an introduction, I am a Santa Cruz resident of 30 years, a mother of 2 teenagers, an investigative journalist that started here at Metro Santa Cruz under Buzz Bezor, if anyone remembers Buzz. I am the founder and former director of a national nonprofit with project sites in 4 regions of the US, including funding from the W.K. Kellogg Foundation or funded by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation and others. And the sites were in the Mississippi Delta, in North Carolina, in Iowa, in San Francisco and South San Francisco, and Bayview Hunters Point. I know how to write grant proposals, to monitor disparate sites where work is happening, to work with many and varied project partners and demographics, and to monitor and report on outcomes, and then to evaluate those outcomes and figure out what we did right and what we did wrong. I have also worked with counties and cities extensively, and for 6 years worked throughout departments in the Santa Clara Valley Health and Hospital System, including in the alternative schools, the county jail, youth correctional facilities, and with county employees generally, as well as the general public, as an educator and part of a leadership team doing mental health and resiliency education across the county. I also served locally on the Westlake School site and the city's Community Advisory Committee on Homelessness for 9 months with Fred Keeley and Don Lane and many others, and Rafa, who's here. I have trained staff at the largest homeless shelter in San Francisco and volunteered to teach a mental health class at MHCAN weekly for a year and a half. And so going back to the county, we had open classes in resiliency for all county employees. So I had all kinds of county employees coming through these courses on innate resiliency, efficiency, and teamwork. I care very deeply about people and issues and have dedicated most of my recent life to climate advocacy and activism, social justice issues, issues of democracy, and often at the expense of my own career, meaning that I lost clients. You know, I didn't know what would happen if I started talking about politics all of a sudden. And I was willing to risk that to speak my mind about what I saw as the truth. I also care and have been deeply trained in helping people to listen to one another. I don't know, I also care, I don't know about what. I think I met people and adding cross-divide dialogue and breaking down the silos in which people think and operate so that we can come to real solutions. I believe we need to face the reality of living in the US and on the planet in the 21st century and be willing to be flexible so that we do not break. I believe, as Ryan Coonerty has often alluded to, that we are in crisis situations in which multiple issues intersect and compete. So our solutions need to be out of the box, cutting edge, and very bold and creative. And we need to sell these solutions to our constituents through new forms of dialogue and communications, whether these be facilitated town halls or more dynamic and interesting websites, social media, and more. I believe that if we can build community and community trust, we can get some real things done. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Okay, question 1. Santa Cruz County is unique in many ways, such as its topography, people, biodiversity, and mix of cultures. One of the most unique characteristics about Santa Cruz County is that nearly half of the residents of this county live in unincorporated areas. Although you will be representing District 3, your decisions will have a major impact on the residents of other districts. Do you know the important issues also facing Districts 1, 2, 4, and 5? If you can mention the top issues, 1 or 2 for each of the districts, that would be great.
So I just want to say that doing some research, I found a survey of the unincorporated areas of the county for all unincorporated residents. And the 3 top issues that they were talking about at the time of the survey, which I think was relatively recent, I think it was through local, Santa Cruz Local, was fire prevention, mental health, and housing. So I thought that was interesting that those were consistent across districts. So yeah, all the districts are very different. I can't say that I know every district as well as I know District 3, for example, or other districts that I personally have lived in. But my understanding is that in District 5, McPherson's district, we have fire prevention issues, just like we have in District 3, serious water issues. And also, I've been interested in looking into the school district and how they teach. I think there are some excellent educators in the school district who teach about race and racial history, the different issues that people face. I'd be interested in looking into that because I have some friends that I know from who went to school there who had some just issues with harassment, racial harassment. But that's not just in San Lorenzo Valley. That probably is across the board. And I'd like to look into the whole issue in the school district on that. In Manu's district, District 1, he's got his hands full, as I understand it. I think his hands are probably a little too full because most of his district is unincorporated. And I actually think he might deserve to have an extra analyst for that reason, because in my talking with him, that's what I've heard is that he's, everyone has 2 and he has 2. Maybe he should have an extra one to serve more people in the unincorporated area in his district. I think there are issues with affordable housing also in District 1, and making sure we're supporting all families there, people who are perhaps lower income families as well. In District 2, my understanding of the issues so far are that there are road repair issues. There's transit issues for everybody, trying to get from Capitola up to Santa Cruz or down south to the Watsonville area. And I think everyone is struggling with affordability, even in areas where people may have wealth. Sometimes that wealth is just the accumulated wealth of their home. It's not that they actually have a lot of extra money to spend. And everyone has children that some of whom want to stay in this area and want to live here. So as you know, our housing issues are immense and intense. And in the Pajaro Valley, there's more poverty in the Pajaro Valley. There are more specific issues around farm workers and their families, and that affects the effects of climate on farm worker families are more intense because people are working out in the fields. I think that's something that we need to pay attention to and look at. Also, pesticide spraying. I think we spray 1 million pounds of pesticides in the Pajaro Valley every year. That's a lot. And the children suffer with developmental disabilities and so on and so forth, people who live alongside those fields. Farm worker housing, of course, affordable housing again. And when there's less income and there's more poverty, there are more profound issues, so I think that there are more resources that need to be dedicated to those issues in those areas. I understand that there are some city lots that could be used to build housing in Watsonville. I think there are issues around farmland and making sure that we have enough food being grown. I've been talking to people who buy food from the Pajaro Valley to sell in their restaurants and so on and so forth. And they're very concerned about making sure we always have enough food coming out of the Pajaro Valley. And I'm concerned about food too, as we move further into the climate crisis in terms of adaptation. I want to make sure that we have local access to food as a contingency plan if food supply chains start to break down, which they're starting to. It's something I track very carefully. I don't know if that means we need to panic. I don't think panic is a good idea, but I think having plans in place is a good idea. And that's actually one of the central reasons I'm running, is that I feel like there isn't a lot of reality around climate. If there is, it's not being conveyed to the constituency at the level needed. There's just a vague anxiety versus let's do some things that are inspiring, that are creative, and that will, keep us in good stead as we weather the storms, quote unquote, that come our way.
All right, thank you. Question 2, what are the top 3 issues facing this office?
Oh my gosh, there's a lot.
Just 3, we only need 3.
Okay, only 3, oh my gosh. So, well, climate is a central issue. It's affecting our water supplies. We have to look at all of our water resources. We have to look at fires. I mean, the fires, I heard someone in Big Sur told me that they had a fire tornado. And I was like, okay, that's new. I mean, we're getting storms and weather that have new names for us, like atmospheric rivers and bomb cyclones. And these things are just, Coonerty has said this, it will be one disaster after another. And so I think we need to really look at our resiliency. We have to be, I think we have a tendency to grow. We want to add things and special things and wonderful things, but I think we have to make sure our fundamental systems are going to support us before we can just move forward with sort of business as usual. That's what we're doing at the national level, business as usual. That's what we're doing at the global level, business as usual. We don't have to be doing it here. In terms of other issues, of course, housing and homelessness. I don't know if you can lump those two together, but they are huge. When I talk to constituents in District 3, that's one of their #1 issues all the time. I'm sure we'll talk about that more when questions come up, I'm assuming. And then for me, I think building a sense of community and mental health and a way to dialogue with each other outside of the more traditional government forums and rules and the way that, the Brown Act, for example, it's very difficult to really communicate with your constituents. And I want to look into that. That's something that Manu Koenig is looking into. I very much support that. And it's something that I looked into when I was on the Homelessness Advisory Committee, is how can we actually create forums where we can really get it all off our chest, but then also get to a place where we understand each other better so that we can move forward with solutions that we need to move forward with, where we're getting stuck now because people don't understand the issues or they're just looking at their part of the issue. And sometimes that's a valid part, but if it's just that one part, it's not the whole picture.
Okay, time for those housing questions.
Yeah.
My next couple of questions are related to housing, and I will be asking in 2 parts. I'll be asking you the first question, hear your response, and then follow up with another question.
Okay.
For the first, in January of this year, AMBAG voted on the allocation methodology for the 6th cycle of the housing element. The methodology chosen allocated units based on affirmatively furthering fair housing, which is a factor to determine who lacks access to opportunity and address inequities amongst protected class groups. The County of Santa Cruz, not including its cities, received an allocation of 4,634 units. Do you believe that this is a fair and achievable allocation?
Well, I mean, I think we should go for it if we can. I mean, we are in a crisis. I've talked to people where, people who work in coffee shops and ice cream parlors and restaurants around here, the services that we count on to be a part of our community that we rely on, people are living in their cars. I've had business owners talk to me about, I'm trying to keep this one employee from becoming homeless and I don't know what to do. And I think they're just going to become homeless. So this is a crisis. I don't know enough about it to say for sure one way or another we can or we cannot. I'm just going to say I think we should go for it. I know that Rafa has some ideas. I've talked to him a little bit. He thinks that we can do this. So I'd be interested in talking to him more about that. And what was the question again that I'm supposed to, is that a fair allocation? That was
if it's a fair and achievable allocation.
Well, achievable, we'd have to really look at, and I think we have to look at, trying to pass a bond and trying to get the state to allow us to pass bonds without the 2/3 majority. I think we also have to pass some taxes that will provide the social services to go along with the housing, so that if we have people who need support services, the neighborhoods that we put those housing units in are not impacted because people have the social services and then people feel good about these units of housing. I think if we can find land in the county, and I have my team looking for trying to get the map and figure out where could we actually find free land that we can then convert into housing through, let's say, a bond funded housing trust and or workforce housing, which is something that I'm learning about. I'm talking to a municipal advisor, Mark Northcross, who used to be a municipal advisor for the city of Santa Cruz back in the 1980s, who's saying that workforce housing is a really good plan because there are a lot of investors who want to invest in workforce housing, but with a real commitment to a real solid covenant to provide the low income housing. It's not market rate housing, but it's the median percent of the median income. So
Okay.
for working families, basically.
All right. So my follow-up question is,
Yeah.
as of June 2021, the Housing Authority has 12,678 applicant households on the Housing Choice Voucher wait list. The wait list is currently closed.
Yeah.
Do you stand by your previous response? And is there a creative way to find homes for the many households on this wait list?
Well, I'm assuming that the Housing Authority is probably doing a pretty good job trying to get landlords to accept Section 8 vouchers. I'm not sure what exactly they're doing, but that's sort of what I've heard. That's also a matter of, we could further community education around trying to get people to accept those vouchers, but it's a huge amount. I don't think we're gonna get everybody into the current housing stock with 12,000 people on the waiting list. I understand the waiting list is now closed, actually, we just can't. So that brings up the need for low income housing development. And my preference is to be moving toward low income and affordable housing, looking at county land and using that as kind of like a match. We have this free land. So look, we're willing to offer this. We can, if you guys are willing to pay a tax or fund a bond or vote for a bond that would allow us to build low income and affordable housing or workforce housing here. So yeah, I guess that's probably all I have to say.
Okay. Okay, question 4. Do you support the Greenway initiative? Why or why not? And please respond from both a district specific and a county-wide perspective.
Oh. I do not support the current Greenway measure, mostly because of what I've heard from the fire departments and from Roaring Camp about the need for the rail. And just so that I can have more time to study the issue, because it's like a 20-year, super complex, super highly charged issue. I also had the thought, I don't want this to be a major issue in this election. And the other candidates are saying no on Greenway. And so just based on, especially what I've seen about from the fire departments, I'm saying no on Greenway at this time. In terms of looking at the rail and trail, I mean, there's so much. I have a friend who is involved in the county planning department and transportation department for a long time, and she just completely burnt out on the issue. She had to leave her job. That's how hard this has been. So I'm interested in just really taking a good look at everything and then coming up with a position, but I can't say that I really have a solid position. I've heard things on both sides, and I just need to do the research, and I have the skills for that. I'm an investigative journalist. I look at reams and reams of documents, and I look for the places that don't make sense, that don't add up.
Okay, thank you. We will now move on to questions from the public, from those who are in attendance. And if you have any questions, please put them on chat, or you can ask them here online. Tony, I noticed that you had a question and you thought that she answered it during the housing discussion. So I'm going to leave that. So let's start with Mr. Sonnenfeld.
Yes, thank you. My question has to do, excuse me, Ms. Chen Mills, you've mentioned that you'd like to see more planning for resiliency in the county.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you have any specific policy ideas around our water supply resiliency situation.
Yeah, well, my understanding is that we need to have agreements with the SoCal Water District from up here in District 3, and I would support that. I also would support everyone, sort of like home conservation efforts, because we have a lot of people in the unincorporated area who are actually on wells. Some of those wells are starting to dry up. I can only see that getting worse. So we need to sort of educate people and provide, for example, when I worked for Ecology Action, I ran the Master Composter Training Program when I first got into town here, and we did trainings across the county that were actually funded by the county in composting. And then we were giving out these subsidized compost bins. They weren't entirely free, but they were highly subsidized. And so this was a way to get composting off the ground in the county. And I can see the same thing with rainwater catchment systems. I'd like for us to be looking at gray water systems. I'd like for us to be looking at soil, how people are using their soil and how they're capturing water if they're doing gardening and farming. There are a lot of things to look at. And I think that's something that I bring in that is maybe different from the other candidates is I have a real interested passion for people who are doing work with ecology that has to do with permaculture, that has to do with rewilding, that has to do with sort of what I see as the cutting edge interventions that also make people happy when they do them, that could be inspiring to young people. So one of my ideas is also to have a youth climate corps so that they're working on these projects across the county, and also to get a pilot regenerative agriculture program going. It's one of the most hopeful things we have in our toolbox. I want people to be talking about Santa Cruz County, like, isn't it exciting what they're doing? That is so cool, and yeah, so that's where I'm at on that. I'm not sure there's physical resilience and there's also emotional resilience. But I think, Rafa, you're talking about physical resilience more around water in particular.
Okay, any other questions from the public? Oh, Ms. Ackerman, go ahead.
Hi, I was trying to get it into the chat, but I just can't type quickly enough. Sorry. I'm curious about, and I know as a third district supervisor, you wouldn't be directly engaged with the Santa Margarita board, at least not right now, because I believe the appointed supervisors are McPherson and Koenig. But obviously, the management of the Santa Margarita groundwater aquifer has really important impacts on multiple districts in the county. So I'm just wondering sort of what your thoughts are around where the agency is at in terms of looking at its future next steps, capital priorities, and funding, most critically, for operating the agency as we go forward, and how as a county supervisor, you would engage with some of those issues as they impact some of the smaller water districts like ours in San Lorenzo Valley that are trying to recover from the fire while also navigate these really substantial capital challenges and costs.
So I think one of the things that I want to do is just sort of like have a map of what's going on with all the water systems across the county, because I think it's really important to track. I can't say that I know that particular issue terribly well or well enough to answer your question at this time, but I think that my research skills are such that I could learn about it pretty quickly. And that's what I would do. I would go learn about it from documents and from reports, but also in terms of talking to people who are working on the issue. I think that usually people have ideas already on the ground. They may disagree, but I'd be listening to all sorts of people, and this is my concern, is that we need to be thinking within the context of our resources, even in terms of growth. How can we grow if we're going to run out of water for everybody, if we don't have another way of getting water? You know what they say, water is life, and it is. It's very important. We can't live without it. It's the number one thing. So, so I care very deeply about our water resources, and that would be one of the first things I'd want to be looking at when I got into the seat.
Okay, thank you.
Probably
Mr.
call you.
Mr. Risamano.
Oh, a member. Okay, good.
Hey, Amy, I was really impressed with what I heard tonight. You really have struck me as somebody who is a serious, well-informed, with breadth and depth of knowledge of local issues. So congratulations on that. And whatever happens in this election, I think you've got a great political future if that's something you choose to engage in the future. However.
Thank you. Oh, however, okay.
But
I gotta go, actually. My reception is giving out.
Wait. But those great answers that you gave, unfortunately, didn't include your response on the rail line. I mean, that's like, that's been the major issue in Santa Cruz County for a long time. And
Yes, it
to come
has.
in and say, oh, I'm not really totally informed on it, I have to find out more. That
Mhm.
doesn't really strike me as that's kind of disingenuous. I would think that somebody as well informed as you have made yourself to be,
Mhm.
that you would find the rail issue to be at or near the top of your priorities. Obviously, there are other things that are important, but still, that's going to be the issue that people are going to be discussing in the election.
Yeah.
And I really can't imagine that anyone who is a serious candidate for political office this year, 2022, this decade, this century, would be in favor of an initiative that would require the removal of rail lines and essentially forever stop rail transit in Santa Cruz County.
But that, I didn't say that I was. I said I'm no on Greenway. Is that what you're talking about?
No, you said you were still studying the issue. That you had heard a couple of you had heard some comments one way or the other, and you weren't. What I
Well,
heard
it's
you
not
say.
just comments. I've heard, I have friends who've been working on this for some time, and everyone. It's not that I've ignored the issue. It's more that it's. Yeah, I mean, I can go back and really look at it. If you think I need to have a position, I will try to take a look. But I just want more time. I just am being very honest. I don't think I'm being disingenuous. I'm just saying, it hasn't been something that I've been very much a part of. I've been involved in the homelessness issue. I've been involved in other issues. I'm not trying to hold out so that I can vote some way when I get on the board or something like that. It's just really the reality for me. But I can take your feedback and say, okay, maybe I need to go make a decision. I mean, I very much support rail because we have huge congestion on Highway 1. People need to be able to get up and down, and then they also need to be able to get from wherever the train stop is to get onto shuttles to get to those places where they need to be, like UCSC and Cabrillo and the county and so on. So we need to factor that part in as well. But I can't see in this day and age, Tony, if it helps at all, taking out rail just in general because of the climate crisis, because of the cost of fuel, the pollution and traffic and everything else that's involved. So that's my leaning, that's my inclination. But I am someone.
Yeah, we need a definitive statement. Leaning inclination is kind of wiggly. Sorry.
I know. Well, Tony, I can't give you one because I would just be giving you one to satisfy, maybe what you want me to say, but I can't in this moment, just to be honest. It's totally honest on my part. But if you want, I'll go take a look. Yeah.
Can you come up with a definitive statement sometime before the election?
You know what? I'll try to do that.
I'll try to listen to you.
I just say that because I am in a whirlwind. I tell people I am like the Tasmanian devil. I mean, every day I get up and I have 100 things that I'm supposed to be
I know
doing.
it's like there's I know it's
So
like
to be able to really sift through all of this.
There's a final exam every day. I know, and a final exam like 5 times a day for candidates.
Yeah,
I know how difficult it is, but it's an important issue. So thank you. I
understand. And what you're telling me is it's so important that you think perhaps a viable political candidate should actually have an opinion even at this time. That's what you're telling me.
I think that imagine yourself to be a citizen of Los Angeles in 1938, and you had the ability as a political candidate to stop the removal of the red line and the yellow line, and to stop Goodyear and Standard Oil from tearing up the rail tracks. What position would you take then?
Right, I understand.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Tony.
Moving on to Ryan, please ask your question.
So I was originally just going to thank you for kind of running for office and obviously doing your homework, and then Tony kind of beat me to that point a little bit. So just reiterate that I really do appreciate how much you've thought about these issues and came prepared with some answers. I think that it is really, really important to have that definitive position on this issue, because I do think it's, I think that, like, as you were talking about how these solutions to these problems are so complex, and they are going to require all these different like avenues and different systems, and rail is a huge part of that. And,
Yes,
and
it
one
is.
thing, as you've been discussing about climate, which is 100% accurate and true, is something I don't want you to forget about as you're doing this work and thinking about your position of rail and things like that, is really the equity issue of how segregated of a county we live in.
Yeah, no, that's
And
true. It's absolutely true. Yeah.
we have folks who are some of the lowest income earners spending the most in transportation, and these are folks that are suffering the worst impacts of Highway 1 traffic. They're the ones that are stuck in it in the morning and at night.
Yeah.
And that is racism. That is institutional, straight up racism. And this is why I think the rail issue is such an important one for all candidates to be firm on, is because I believe that folks who support racist policies are folks who are supporting, racism. Whether they have that in their heart or not doesn't matter.
They're not thinking about it. Yeah.
And so I want you to keep that in mind too. But also thank you for running for office and just putting yourself out there, because it is a ridiculously vulnerable position that you're putting yourself in, and,
I know, I
we
said
need
that
more
too.
folks like that.
I said that today on my Instagram. I said it's like running down the street naked.
Yeah.
But I want
It
to
is.
say though that the reason I'm pausing on this is because I haven't listened to the other side that much. I've listened, like I know Lonnie from Equity Transit, and I've listened to presentations and workshops, and I just feel I have to give everybody a fair shake. And so I haven't done that. And I don't think it's right to not do that. If you were to ask me right now to vote on it, I'd say definitely we do not take out the rail and we do the rail trail. I understand it's been 20 years, a lot of effort, a lot of work, a lot of, and it's been really cool to see that little train go up and down. It's super cool. It's super amazing. So I just need to, okay, well, I'm going to take it into consideration and under advisement to get a position together. I mean, I want you to know I'm not taking any money from Greenway supporters. And so I hope that's something you're looking at as well as you're looking at all these candidates.
Thank you.
And I will not take money from Greenway supporters.
Thank you. Ms. Steiner, I just wanted to acknowledge that you had your hand up. So I just wanted to know if you had a question or not. And you're on mute.
This, I kind of did, but I think that Tony and Ryan pretty much covered it. Amy, I think you're pretty marvelous. I think you've got a future in our county. This single issue is the most important in the county right now. So I appreciate the fact that you want to look at the other side, but don't look too hard. You won't find it.
What happens?
And you're welcome.
Do I turn into stone?
Not as long as you're a Democrat. Let's put it that way. Okay. So,
I know things can get really nasty too, and So anyway, I appreciate what you're saying. And in fact, I have a team member on this call with me, so we're going to take a good hard look at this. Yeah.
I know who she is, and I'm surprised she hasn't already informed you, but I'm sure she will.
We've been doing a lot of informing. Yeah.
No doubt. Well,
Yeah.
anyway, thank you for taking the time to join us tonight.
All right. Any final questions? Franco?
Yes, I was just going to ask Amy if she thought she might have a position more solidified about the rail and trail, because next week, as co-host of the forum that she'll be at, the Santa Cruz Suburban PDC and Sierra Club Forum. I'm
Yeah.
sure we're going to be asking, hard questions about that then. So that's
Okay,
kind of a
gotcha.
question, kind of a question and a tip to maybe, take a look at that Greenway initiative a little harder. And thanks for being here tonight, and we'll see you next week, next Thursday.
Thank you. It's
forward to
been really
that.
nice to get to meet you all. One of
Yeah.
those things.
What you still have a 2-minute, you still have 2 minutes for closing remarks. So unless there are any other questions, going once, twice. All right, then Ms. Chen Mills, you have 2 minutes for your closing remarks.
I guess I just want to say that I have been I have thrown myself into advocacy and activism for the last 4 years, 5 years, probably since Trump was elected. Before that, I was helping people with their mental health and thinking that that was actually at the root of a lot of our problems, which I still believe it is. I feel like, sort of like the greed that we see and the need to acquire more and more is based on some kind of fundamental insecurity and incapacity to just be content. And that's sort of foundational to who I am, is feeling like there are root causes of these things. But my focus has been on defeating Donald Trump. My focus has been on climate activism. I flew to DC to meet with Jimmy Panetta and other senators, and I wasn't able to meet with Jimmy Panetta here. So I had to fly to DC and spend all kinds of money to try to talk to him to get a carbon tax passed. So this is how dedicated I am. I'm the kind of person who I don't think a lot of people like to put climate out of their minds. I can't do that. It's not possible for me. I'm like, okay, how are we getting ready for this? What's coming down the pike? It's like always on my mind. It doesn't mean I'm unhappy or stressed out. It just means that I feel like when you're on the Titanic, you should be doing all you can to get, steer away from the iceberg. If we've hit the iceberg, we need to be thinking about the women and the children and not thinking about the food at the buffet. That's how I feel about climate. I also feel like with my journalism skills, they're crucial, I think, to this job in terms of going through a lot of wonky information and coming up with some kind of answer or policy. And I also want to say, I think what I'm saying from the first part of this closing is that this is not about me running for office to run for office, to have a title, to have a position, or to have a next step. This is about me really caring about this community and wanting to make sure that we are okay, and really caring about the young people here who, there's a lot of climate anxiety out there. And I think we can help. If our leaders are thinking about climate a lot, then the rest of the population doesn't have to as much, because they can feel safe, like it's being taken care of. And of course, all the other issues are important as well. So thank you so much. And vote for me, June 7th.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us tonight, Ms. Chen Mills, and for giving us your time. We will hold our next town hall not tomorrow, on Monday at 6 p.m. For District 3 candidate Justin Cummings, and at 7 p.m. we will have another one with District 4 candidate Jimmy Dutra. So folks, I hope to see you all on Monday again. And with that, we conclude tonight's program.